Hello friends! Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back! Today we're going to talk about first therapy appointments, how to make them, what to expect with them, and kind of how to go about it. So stay tuned! Okay friends, welcome. If this is your first time coming to my channel, happy you're here! I hope you love my videos. Please comment below if you have any recommendations of what you want to hear. If you are a returning user, you're amazing and thank you for coming back to my channel. So today I want to talk about making therapy appointments, kind of how to do it and what to expect at your first appointment. I've had lots of people come to therapy and they are like shaking in their boots because they don't know what to expect, and I'm like, holla, it's not bad, I promise. At least with me it's not bad. Okay, so how to make a therapy appointment. Seriously guys, if you've watched my other videos, you know how much I believe in, and research shows, that the most important part of therapy is finding somebody that you jive with. And research probably doesn't use the word jive, but I do. So, but really though, the relationship between the therapist and the client is the most important aspect of therapy. So if you think your therapist is cool and your therapist thinks you're cool and you guys have a cool vibe together, the likelihood that therapy will be successful for you and you will find success in therapy skyrockets. If you and your therapist aren't similar, if you guys have different kind of morals and values and thoughts, and if you're doing this thing and your therapist is way against that thing, right? Doesn't jive, you probably won't feel like you can be open and honest with them. So the number one thing I tell you guys is please find a therapist that you like and you can have a good relationship with. If you go in for your first appointment, couple appointments, and you're like, it's just not feeling right, go ahead, let your therapist know and find somebody new. Your therapist knows a little bit about you then, so they could probably even help you find somebody new. But please, you're doing a disservice to yourself, to your therapist, to everybody if you are not jiving. Now, I'm not saying go in on your first day and you think your therapist is ridiculous and you hop and skip and jump out and you never come back. No, guys, that's called ghosting. I'll do another video on that. We don't do it like that. But make sure that you are really checking with yourself about whether you and your therapist can jive together, and once that jive is established, then move forward. But so right, how do we do that? So go ahead, go online. Literally, I would Google. Seriously guys, I would Google counselors, therapists in my area, find somebody in your area, and I would go to their website and go to their About Me page and see if they jive with you. If you have a recommendation from another person, somebody close to you, that could be cool too. Go ahead and check that person out. But most therapists have an About Me page where you can get some sense of who they are, what they are, that type of thing. Just because your friend had a good experience with a therapist doesn't mean that you will. And that's not because the therapist sucks or you suck or anything like that. It's just we all have different friends, and not all of my friends like all of my friends because we're different people. Recommendations are awesome. Go ahead and pursue those. But really just kind of dive in and make sure that you're finding somebody that you like. Okay, then after that, calling and making the appointment. So most therapists have you call in. Some therapists have you fill out an online form. Either way, when you call in or fill out the form, I'm going to do call in because that's most common. When you call in, there's a couple things that I would have. Usually it's a receptionist that answers. It's not going to be your therapist. Sometimes it is. But there's a couple things I would ask. First is if you have insurance or are using insurance, which I will do another video on the pros and cons to using insurance versus self-pay, but that's neither here nor there. If you're using insurance, make sure that you ask if your insurance is accepted. They should be able to tell you that right away. That's first and foremost. If you're going to self-pay, I would ask for the rates and what that looks like for you to make sure that it's feasible for you. The second thing is I would talk to them about kind of what you're seeking. So, for example, if there's a therapy technique called EMDR, and there are some people who know about that and that's what they want, if there's something like that specific, like EMDR, or if you have, let's say, an eating disorder, or alcohol, you're struggling with alcohol or drug addiction, or if you're struggling with anxiety or depression, or you don't know what it is, talk to that receptionist who answers the phone about kind of a little bit of what it is that you're going through, to make sure that your therapist is able to work with people who have that going on. For example, EMDR is a very specialized form of training, and not every therapist does it, and every therapist you can't just do it without that training. After that, then schedule the appointment. So I don't know about everybody else in the world, but it is not uncommon to have your initial appointment scheduled 2, 3, maybe even 4 or more weeks out. So if this is something where it is like crisis, like I need somebody right now, it might be more difficult to find somebody that has an opening. Maybe not, and sometimes we get lucky, right? Just keep that in your mind, that it likely won't be immediate that you have that appointment. And also, guys, so it's so often that people make an appointment because they're in crisis, and by the time we get to the appointment, like 4 weeks later, they're like, oh, life isn't so bad, I'm just gonna cancel. Don't do that. Like, don't do that, because you're gonna get back to that crisis again. Go in, see somebody, so by the time you get to that crisis, you have like some outlook, some skills, some tuck-ins, some appointment setup, all that, for when that crisis happens again. Don't do that, guys. Don't do that. Okay. So you get your appointment time. Usually they'll send you like several forms that you sign for consent. Read those. Pretty please read those, because some therapists are like, you can text me quick things for appointment changes, and other therapists are like, you will be charged if you text me. There oftentimes will be things like what to expect for your first appointment. Is it 60 minutes? Is it an hour and a half? What does that look like? So read through those consents. It will also talk about like confidentiality and stuff like that. So for real, just read the consents before you come to the appointment. So then also feel free to ask the receptionist things like, is there a certain place I should park? Do I just walk into the building? Is there a waiting room? I'm super visual, so like legit, I want to know everything. Like, I want to know, where do I park? When I walk in the building, do I check in with somebody? Will there be somebody there? Will it just be waiting room with like one chair in it? Is there going to be like 100 people there? Do I have to walk 6 blocks from parking to where I go? Like, I want to know, like, what do I do when I get there? How much time do I need to plan for me to be able to get into the office? So those are all things that I would ask if you can remember to prior to coming. Otherwise, do some Google search of the building and stuff like that, and you'll be cool. Or just show up a little bit early and you'll be fine. But those are all questions that you can ask, and don't feel ridiculous asking any of those. So when you get to your appointment, make sure you bring that paperwork with you. Most of the time when people come to their first appointment, seriously guys, I see this like all the time. And let's be honest, all therapists should have a good therapist. I'm gonna say it. All therapists should have a good therapist. And so like, I've been in your shoes before too. We're like racking and stacking our brain for what it is that we're gonna talk about at that first appointment. We're like making sure that we tell them about this nitty-gritty detail and this nitty-gritty detail, and that this happened and this happened and this person, that person. Well, guys, quite honestly, your first appointment is mostly like all about like your life, what got you here, what medication you're on, if you've ever seen a counselor before. It is not getting into that nitty-gritty stuff. So just know that when you come to the appointment, oftentimes we're not able to touch on or get to some of that stuff that you were like yearning to talk about. So I would make sure right away to schedule your follow-up appointment. If you're going to be seen once a week or once every 2 weeks, make sure that you kind of have that in mind. It happens like far too often where people come in my office, we get through that first appointment, and you can just see like the on their face, because they're like, I really wanted to talk to you about coping skills for binge eating, or I really wanted to talk to you about how I'm supposed to respond to this part of my relationship or this person in my relationship. So make sure you guys are really kind of like prepared for that. And honestly guys, if there's something that it is like killing you to not talk about, at least in my sessions, I just want to know that up front, like, hey dude, I get we have to go through this paperwork. There's something I'm dying to get a little bit of advice on so I can just survive till our next appointment. Could we have like 5 or 10 minutes during this appointment to go over that? And I'm gonna say like, of course we can, right? Of course we can. But I don't know unless you tell me, so make sure you tell me. During your first session, those are the things I'm going to be asking you about. I'm going to be asking you about who you are, where you work, what does an average day look like for you, where did you grow up, who's your support system right now, what did your family look like growing up, was there abuse to include physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, what your relationships look like now. Are you in a relationship? Are you trying to figure out what type of people you want to be in a relationship with? Are you questioning your sexuality? That type of stuff. I'm going to ask you like what medication you're on, how you're sleeping, how you're eating, those big things. Are you having any suicidal thoughts? Have you ever acted on your suicidal thoughts if you've had them? And then what are your goals? I always end with what your goals are, because all of our goals are different, right? And so when you tell me your story and the things I pick out that I think might be your goals might not be anywhere near your goals. And it's like not to me to decide your goals. So I'll be asking you what your goals are, so I know where to work off of. And then I oftentimes refer back to those goals throughout therapy to make sure we're meeting your needs. And so that's what a first session looks like. Typically my first sessions are an hour long, but I do know that there's many people that do an hour and a half, and some I believe even do 2-hour long initial sessions. Kind of take that for what it's worth. And then as we're closing up, I always make recommendations for how often I would like to see you in therapy. And I always tell people that I give recommendations, but you choose your life path. So if I say, hey girl, hey, like, it seems like things are really, really tough right now, I actually recommend twice a week to start off with, and then we'll taper down. Or I might say like, hey, you know what, it sounds like things are really a struggle right now, let's try once a week and see where that goes. Or I might say, hey, you know what, it looks like things overall are going well, but there's some things you want to tweak. Should we start every other week and go from there? And regardless, I'm open to your feedback. Like, this is your life and your journey, and you know better than I do what's going to work for you. You know your work schedule, how much time you're able to have off. You know all that way better than I do. And so I always say I make recommendations and you choose your life path, and I'm not judging. So if I say once a week and you're like, girlfriend, like, I need twice a week, I'm dying here. Okay, then we'll bump up to twice a week. If I say once a week and you're like, dude, I want to see you that much, I won't go once every other week. So I am totally flexible in that, but that doesn't mean everybody is. But again, that goes back to finding somebody who's right for you and who is right for your style. So that's that. That is what a first therapy session looks like for me. I hope that helps kind of like ease the anxiety or the nervousness about your first session or how to make an appointment, but also I hope it helps put realistic expectation out there for what a first therapy appointment looks like. And also the therapist is there to guide that conversation. I'm getting a little off track right here. This really is the end of my video, but a lot of people are like, I don't know what I'm gonna say. I want to write down topics so that there's not any awkward silence. 1, silence is good, and 2, it's the therapist's job to kind of move that conversation along. And especially that first therapy appointment, the therapist has lots of questions to ask, so likely there's not going to be any awkward silence. And as always, be honest and let the therapist know if you're nervous about that. That's it. Just be honest. So that's that. That is a first therapy appointment with Brittany Shank. And I think that a lot of therapists do it very similar to that. There might be some tweaks here and there, but I think it's pretty consistent across the board. So let me know if you have any questions. Thumbs up if you like the video. And remember all of your subscribing options to see this crazy kook as often as possible. I do post twice a week, so keep looking for them. Thanks guys. Bye.